You don't remember your dream, Kyle? Well, let me do you one better. What if your dreams were stolen? DarbyCast, Wildcard Friday. Kyle and I, we were just talking about dreams. Big old sleepyhead Kyle talking about the kind at night. I'm talking about hopes, desires, wishes for the future. And we could talk about having your dreams stolen in a variety of ways, Kyle. But I think we need to explore something amazing, a story that we all know and love, and view having your dreams stolen through that lens. And let's just take a pause for a second. If you're new here, get lost, get out, scram, skedaddle, vamoose. There's like a 90% chance that you don't belong here at all and that you're totally fine with having your dreams stolen. You say, yeah, take more. Take any of the new ones that may pop up too. I know you've already taken all my dreams of living in a normal country. If I come up with anything new, I surrender. I give up. If that's the kind of internal monologue that you have, boy, have you stumbled across the wrong podcast. Go listen to Call Her Daddy or something that normies listen to. Go listen to the OnlyFans girls try to parse through their worldview on the Whatever podcast. Have some avocado toast and go to brunch, Katrina. Oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way, Sabrina. If that's your speed, you're a total coward and you need to get out. But today, I'd like to examine something pretty important. A story, Kyle. A story that we all know to one degree or another. But the way that I'm going to tell it right now, it's going to have a little more of that je ne sais quoi that people have grown accustomed to on the DarbyCast. You can't quite put your finger on it, but something about this podcast just resonates. And if this is your first one, go back in the catalog. So many episodes to explore. But we're going to explore the theme of having your dreams stolen through a magnificent story, Kyle. This story was first written in 1883 by an Italian fella named Carlo Collodi. Let's give it a little more oomph, right? Carlo Collodi. And what is it? That's right, The Adventures of Pinocchio, Kyle. And everybody is used to the Disney version, but they left so much unsaid in the Disney version. The original, a lot more violent, but we're going to explore a totally new version today. Let's dive right in. And I'd like to tell you the themes that we're going to be exploring today, but I kind of want you, the listener, the amazing person with a big heart and a mighty spirit, to just enjoy the story. The sky over this Italian village is the color of a bruised plum. Brown, purple. Foreboding, slightly inappropriate. What was a pretty quiet village is now just a dystopian favela. The cobblestones in the city, Kyle, are slick with filth and the blood of the innocent. Foreign flags are hanging from the crumbling masonry, and the smell of fresh marinara has all but vanished. Ladies just don't even cook anymore because they're so stressed out. Now let's focus on a really great guy, Gepetto, a man on the spectrum, total autistic guy. And you know what he wants the most, Kyle? He wants his country back. He wants silence. He wants order so he can just work in peace. Master toy maker, also no stranger to making an elite cuckoo clock. And I just want to get this off my chest. I've been window shopping cuckoo clocks for the better part of a year, and I just haven't pulled the trigger on one. But I think if I knew an artisan, Italian artisan, who made ones that were built to last, I think I'd go for it. And I don't think I would let the price of it get in my way either. But Kyle, Gepetto's pretty autistic. Loud noises upset him quite a bit. The Islamic call to prayer is blasting 5 times a day, and he just wants to hear the bells, chimes, and whistles of cuckoo clocks. and the sound of the Italian countryside. He wants to hear church bells, but they took away the church bells. Look into that conspiracy, Kyle. They don't want you having good vibes via bells anymore. But Gepetto, he bolts his triple reinforced steel door on his workshop. It used to be just a regular door, but after the way things have been going, all the theft, Kyle, he's got to take extra precautions. The world outside his little workshop has gone mad, and his childhood crush is working a corner down on the street. She's a whore, trafficked by jerks. His whole world has been stolen, all of his dreams. Kyle, put yourself in the shoes of an autistic guy. That's not that big of a stretch for you. And imagine what it would be like to be a master of your craft and to enjoy the sound of birds, robins, perhaps. To have the smells of marinara coming from so many different houses around you. To have all that and then to have it taken away? You gotta be kidding me. But Gepetto has just finished his latest creation, a boy made out of ballistic grade oak and titanium joints. He names him Pinocchio. Pretty cool name, actually. And then he wishes on a star for a son that's going to be a total great guy, who's going to do the right thing, who's going to maybe take back the country so Gepetto can just have a little peace and quiet. Maybe run for mayor, just kind of as a goof when this is all sorted out. Not have a ton of responsibilities, but have the title. He's lived a long life. He's done a lot of cool stuff. Just throw him a bone. Gepetto doesn't just wish upon a star. He prays to God, Kyle. And an angel radiating this pure, holy energy descends, and she taps the puppet with her hand. And she says, "Wake up, you amazing patriot. The West is falling. Prove yourself brave, truthful, and unselfish, and you will become a real boy. But I don't expect you to do this alone. You're going to have a guide." And then out of the shadows, Kyle, steps a cricket. And this is no ordinary cricket. It's a talking cricket. And his name is Kyle. Kyle, you're in a pretty monumental role for this story, so just accept everything that comes with that. Do we go with Jiminy Kyle or Kyle Cricket here? I like Jiminy Kyle the best. You go up to Pinocchio, Jiminy Kyle, and you say, the globalists want you dead. They want you to be a puppet. We've seen the documents. We've seen the white papers. They published them. They're totally arrogant. You need to start wising up and possibly taking a magnesium supplement or maybe a testosterone booster. Kyle, you're big on supplementation. Jiminy Kyle. Pinocchio blinks and his wooden eyes scan the room, and then he grabs a serrated combat knife from the workbench and he just says, "I'm ready for anything." Dad and Jiminy Kyle, great attitude. Everybody loves a great attitude. I just want to highlight that. The next morning, Pinocchio walks towards school, where they're teaching critical race theory, critical gender theory, and they're talking about how amazing the spicy street food that foreigners bring in is. That's not an education, in case you were wondering. That's inappropriate. But on his way to school, Kyle, Pinocchio's intercepted by Honest John and Gideon, NGO recruiters wearing pretty expensive suits. And they say, school is not the place for you, Pinocchio. And they're kind of right, because school's been taken over by globalists and C students, right? Just C students trying to be teachers. What a mess. So they actually have a point, these sideways hucksters, Honest John and Gideon. And they say, "Come with us, little wooden fella. We promise we're not going to rape you." And what an odd pitch that is. Why would you say something like that? But they say we've got an opportunity in the entertainment sector. Fame, fortune. And Pinocchio has been half alive for a couple hours. He doesn't know any better. And Jiminy Kyle says, don't do it. It's a false flag or something. These guys don't seem on the level. And Kyle, what a lame speech. As Pinocchio's conscience, why don't you do a better job? You're just handing him over by giving this lame coaching. Children are generally inexperienced, which is why strangers are so dangerous. We've known this for years, Kyle. Strangers are dangerous a lot of the time, especially in a place that's been overrun by globalists and lies. Kyle, that's the best you could come up with as this boy's protector and conscience? Total airball, Kyle. You've been charged with the duty of protecting this fella, and you just put in a D+ style coaching session. That's not going to cut it. So Pinocchio follows these guys, Honest John and Gideon, to Stromboli, a guy who says he's Italian, but he's Arab. And he definitely changed his name. And most people look at this guy and they're like, what are you even doing here? You're running a burlesque show in this quaint Italian village? And you don't go to church? And you're just a fat fucking sleaze? But Pinocchio doesn't know any better, Kyle. Again, this one's on you. Stromboli, sweaty, smelly, disgusting huckster, makes Pinocchio dance for a bunch of degenerates who are all hammered. And they're just placing bets on anything that they can get action on. Gambling addicts, perverts. And as naive as Pinocchio is, Kyle, he senses something's really off about this whole situation. He just catches a vibe from these people and says, none of this feels right. But Pinocchio's small, and Stromboli is a huge dude, and he takes Pinocchio and he locks him in a cage. And he says, you're going to dance for the masses while I profit off of your image. And Pinocchio weeps. He's heartbroken. He's like, I just wish the world were a kinder, more peaceful place. I wish I was with my dad right now. Jiminy Kyle didn't do a great job of making sure that nothing bad happened to me. I hate him. That's what he says about you, Kyle. He has every right to say that, based on how you failed him. But Pinocchio is a prisoner now. He's in a cage that Stromboli put him in. And Jiminy Kyle, you show up and you say, I'd like to bust you out, but I just feel like such a bummer for getting you in here in the first place. And it's like, Kyle, don't compound a mistake with another mistake. Break him out. The angel appears as Pinocchio is incarcerated and says, what are you doing in this cage? And what's the deal with Jiminy Kyle? Why didn't he protect you from this? And Pinocchio says, oh, this is where I wanted to be. And Jiminy Kyle, he's fine. Don't worry about it. Both of those things are total lies. So his nose, Pinocchio's nose, it grows. And the angel says, don't lie. This is not going to help anybody. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help the people in your region. We don't need more sideways liars who are just going to make excuses for everything. You stupid son of a bitch. Kyle, take notes. This is the hard coaching that sometimes people need. Pinocchio says, hey, I screwed up. I won't do it again. And he snaps off his nose and he sharpens the end into a shiv. And he says, I want to go home. I want to find my dad. I know he has autism and that limits him socially, but I still love him a lot. And that melts our hearts, Kyle, to hear something like that. So Pinocchio's got a combat nose, pointy like a knife, like a spear. That may come in handy at some point. The Angel and Jiminy Kyle, yeah, Kyle, you're a part of it. You're part of the problem, but you're also part of the solution. Break Pinocchio out of the cage. And Pinocchio says, I'm going to go home. I've had enough of this. It's nighttime. What a crazy day this has been. This world is so dangerous. I wonder what it was like to live in a normal country pre-globalism, pre-mass immigration, pre-yellow journalism, pre-government takeover by Satanists. As Pinocchio walks home and Jiminy Kyle tries to keep up and act like he isn't a total failure of a conscience, a convoy rolls into town and the lead carriage is driven by a coachman, Jeffrey Epstein. And he smiles in a way that just gives you the willies. Hey, kid, Epstein calls out, you look stressed out. You need a vacation. Hop in. We're going to Pleasure Island. No parents, no laws. Promise we won't rape you. Why is everybody saying that? Anybody who says that up front, you get the hell away from him. Jiminy Kyle has failed yet again because Pinocchio gets inside the carriage. And then he meets another wayward fella, Italian, on his way to Pleasure Island. And it's none other than Mike the Situation Sorrentino, the Sitch. He says, yeah! He's just flexing his abs. And we admire core strength. As a community, if you're listening to this, you respect core strength. But let me tell you something. Core strength does not make up for being a total piece of work. If you have a shredded core, but you're kind of a piece of garbage, Kyle, if your spirit's way out of whack, no abs in the universe make up for an ugly spirit. But Sitch is excited to go to the island. He wants to GTL and maybe partake in some anarchy. They arrive at Pleasure Island and kids are smoking unfiltered cigarettes, which is actually pretty cool. There is something pretty amazing about tobacco use. It's got its downside, Kyle, but boy, does it have its upside as well. The kids are breaking windows and they're drinking Bud Light Limes. It's fine to just smoke a cig from time to time, Kyle, but breaking windows and drinking Bud Light Lime? This place is hell on earth. Pinocchio and Sitch play pool in a smoky hall. And Sitch is just smashing bottles left and right. He's drinking some Smirnoff Ice, unironically. It's a disgusting drink. And then he just throws the bottles and they hit the wall. And Pinocchio thinks that this is what life is all about, is just getting shit-faced and breaking stuff. Total liberal mindset. Complete lack of meaning. Life's just about pool, getting tanked, and breaking stuff. Jiminy Kyle, totally late arrival. Kyle, you keep messing everything up. You have so much responsibility in this story and you're totally blowing it. I'm so disappointed in you, but you show up and you're holding a stack of papers. And you say, this is a trap and it's turning the boys into less than human livestock in a lot of ways. Totally divorced from their spirits and their higher reasoning. And Kyle, you didn't need to read that from a piece of paper. It's obvious. You could have just said it out loud. You know this, Kyle. Relax, bro, says Mike the Situation Sorrentino, taking a drag of a marijuana cigarette, which gives us pause. Weed is different now. It's like not fun anymore. It just gets you way too anxious and everybody hates it now, except for the people who are really addicted. But as Sitch is blasting this reefer cigarette, his ears elongate and he brays. Little hee-haw. His skin turns to gray fur. He drops to all fours, Kyle, screaming in agony as his hands fuse into hooves. The transformation, visceral. His bones are snapping, flesh reshaping. Kyle calls out, they're turning all the boys into jackasses who don't care about anything. Total nihilists. And Kyle, you're dead on. A rare W for you in this story. Pinocchio begins to sprout donkey ears, but before the transformation's complete and he grows hoof hands, he picks up an AR-15, pretty amazing gun, from a guard who's asleep on the job. Pinocchio blasts his way out of the compound, bullets just ripping through the drywall. And he and Jiminy Kyle steal a speedboat, and they tear across the Mediterranean heading back to the village. They want to reunite with Pinocchio's autistic father, Gepetto. Great guy. Had his dreams stolen. Not okay. But the workshop is empty. Where's my dad? Says Pinocchio, which is a fair question. Kyle. A dove, beautiful white dove, drops a dossier at their feet. Pinocchio and Jiminy Kyle. Gepetto went to the sea to find Pinocchio and was swallowed by Monstro. And we don't know if that's true. We got to take a critical look at all documents, Kyle. Did Gepetto go to the sea looking for his wooden quasi-son, or was he so depressed that he went to a seaside cliff and contemplated calling it a life? Very dark is that potential. But when everything's stolen from you, Kyle, sometimes you don't know how to keep moving forward. Not okay. And let me tell you about Monstro, because we all know Monstro from the Disney version. This is not that version. It's not a whale. He's a bioengineered nuclear sub. Part whale, part robot, powered by AI, made by evildoers. A symbol of the deep state in a lot of ways. Pinocchio and Jiminy Kyle go to the ocean. They dive in. And they swim around. And Pinocchio keeps saying, hey, where's my autistic dad? I miss him so much. And Kyle, you say, we got to go out into deeper waters, Pinocchio. And this is going to take courage. This is going to take everything you've got. It's going to take physical strength, but it's also going to take resolve. That's what it means to be a real dude, is to push yourself. Pinocchio, you got to step up. If you want to save someone that you care about, you might have to go out of the shallow waters from time to time. And where has this coaching been the entire story, Kyle? All of a sudden, you're just hitting the nail on the head. We would have liked it earlier, but better late than never, am I right? The two of them swim out to sea, and Monstro, kind of half beast, half nuclear sub AI horror amalgam, opens his mouth, filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth, and he swallows Jiminy Kyle and Pinocchio whole. And inside the belly, amidst shipwrecks and debris, sits Gepetto, the old autistic fella, who just wanted to be left alone and continue making excellent artwork and toys for kids. But the birth rate collapsed due to mass immigration in his region, and there were no more kids. So sales plummeted, which is super depressing. To be an elite craftsman, or just to want to do something nice for the people around you and not be able to do that, now that is a dream stolen. Hey, Dad, Pinocchio shouts. My boy, Gepetto weeps. Very emotional moment. Jiminy Kyle stays quiet as not to wreck this important reunion. Very wise. Jiminy Kyle does not hijack this moment between a father and his son. So Jiminy Kyle is growing as well. We have to burn this beast from the inside, Pinocchio says. And he breaks off the pointy end of his nose that he had sharpened into a shiv, and he shoves it in a random USB drive inside this monster contraption. The whole AI whale bio beast convulses and ejects everybody into the open sea. And then they scramble onto a raft. Nobody knows how the raft got there, but there is a raft. But as this biomechanical nightmare begins to break down from the wood in its USB drive, the water begins to boil from the nuclear reactor meltdown. And rising from the waves, standing on the back of this fake whale, is the true architect of everyone's misery, the real villain of the whole story. Some of you already know who it is, but for those of you who don't, it's George Soros. He's wearing a cloak made out of shadows and perversion, and he's wielding a spectral longsword, a sword made out of ghosts. So spooky. And Soros says, "You can't escape the New World Order, puppet." He's talking to Pinocchio. And Pinocchio says, "You know what? I'm not a puppet. Fuck you." Which is totally the right thing to say. Everybody washes ashore, and Pinocchio finds a katana in the sand. Just a little bonus beach katana, Kyle. Pinocchio continues. He says, "I'm a real boy, George Soros, and I'm here to take you out." The fight is brutal. Steel clashes against hardened ectoplasm. Remember the ghost sword, Kyle? And Pinocchio moves with speed and expertise, parrying Soros' strikes. George Soros uses dark blood magic to summon waves the size of global inflation and bureaucratic bloat to try to kill Pinocchio and drown him. But Jiminy Kyle acts as a spotter. And you say, watch your back. He's using inappropriate spells. And then Jiminy Kyle finds a little extra courage and jumps on George Soros and then starts poking his eyes with his cricket legs. Really hurts George Soros' eyes. Good job, Kyle. Pinocchio lunges at George Soros, his wooden arm creaking under the torque. Soros, in a blind rage, can't see because Kyle took out his eyeballs. He's swinging his blade and he's aiming for Gepetto, an old autistic person. Pinocchio dives in the way, and the spectral sword cleaves Pinocchio in half. Splinters fly like shrapnel. Gepetto, fueled by paternal rage, fires a rocket-propelled grenade from an RPG that he found on the beach, just a little bonus rocket launcher. Kyle. George Soros explodes in a huge way. Gepetto runs over and cradles the shattered remains of his son. Jiminy Kyle takes off his hat out of respect for the moment. And then, Kyle, you try to give a eulogy and say, well, what if we treated this like a celebration of life rather than a tragedy? And that's a total misfire here, Kyle. So we're doing really bad in the beginning. You kind of pulled it together, and now you're back to square one, maybe square -2. Read the room, read the beach, Kyle. A lot of stuff just went down. You can't just railroad everybody into a celebration of life. Sometimes mourning, weeping, feeling is correct. So don't try to hurry everybody through that process. Way too soon, Kyle. Way too soon. Out of nowhere, the angel appears and descends one last time. And she says, you sacrificed yourself for your family and to defeat George Soros. Your wooden body is broken, but it's time for you to rise as a real boy. And in a flash of blinding white light, Pinocchio stands up. He's flesh, bone, and muscle, and he's not cleaved totally in half. And Pinocchio looks at his very autistic father, and Gepetto doesn't return the eye contact all the way. Never been a big eye contact guy as someone on the spectrum. But Pinocchio says, Dad, let's go home and clean up the rest of this mess. Jiminy Kyle wipes a tear and he says, this is really beautiful. And then the angel reluctantly hands Kyle a badge that says official conscience. You did a very average job, Kyle. You had some big mistakes, a couple of key moments, but overall very underwhelming. Then Pinocchio, Gepetto, and Jiminy Kyle walk into the sunrise, armed to the teeth with their bonus beach weapons, and they're ready to rebuild their country. Maybe Gepetto starts going back to church and connecting with people, realizing that although the other people in the village maybe haven't had his exact experience, they probably know how messed up things have been, and connection is essential moving forward, as is marinara. The end. What a story, right? It's what many of you are probably thinking to yourselves right now. What an important story that needs to be shared with lots of people at a time like this. We all know what it's like to experience the degradation of all the things that you enjoy. If you're living in the United States, you know how crappy things are going. But you got to connect with other people. You got to push yourself. You got to tell the truth. And you got to pray, Kyle. And even if your team is made up of imperfect heroes, looking at you, Kyle, on this one, that's how you defeat George Soros. Is you say, we're not perfect, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to protect people to the best of our abilities and metaphorically jam wood in a USB drive. What's the USB drive that you need to jam today, Kyle, out in real life? I think that's a question we all need to ask ourselves today. But that's DarbyCast Wildcard Friday. Share this with somebody today.